So I'd like to welcome Katrina Arsman to tonight's webinar. I really felt like I wanted to start the year with an inspirational story, and Katrina and I have been working together on pure bookkeeping stuff recently, and I knew of her big win of selling her business about 12 months ago and really felt like it was a great story that needed to be heard. Some of you will know Katrina. She runs webinars and seminars and does mentoring as well, which she'll tell you a little bit about at the end of the webinar. But primarily she's here tonight to tell her story, and hopefully that will give you some inspiration to start the year. So welcome, Katrina.
Thanks, Deb. Appreciate it, and I'm glad to be here.
Terrific. So I guess let's take it from the beginning. How and when did you start your business?
Well, I started when my children were born. I left my full-time tax accounting job and decided I'd just do some casual bookkeeping. And then as the kids got older and they actually got into high school is when I actually started to take the business a bit more seriously, and wanted to do more accounting work, get away from just the data entering. It's quite easy to get yourself into a rut when you just get some, bookkeeping work, doing it all yourself. So it's good to just refresh what you're really wanting to do. And my desire was to get into some other type of work, so that's when I moved out of the home office and really thought about the business a bit more seriously.
And what was it that, I don't know, did something change in your life, or what was it that actually brought you to that point? Because that was the time when you were really thinking it's time to get serious. How did that come about?
Yeah, I think it was the realisation I was in a bit of a rut. So you get a few bookkeeping clients, and they're almost like an employee-employer relationship, although you've got your own business and you're a contractor. And you're just doing the same things all of the time. And I just felt I needed a bit of a challenge, and I needed something to push me, to grow. And it took me a long time to get to that point where I thought, I've really got to do something about it. And it was at that time I actually went to a recruitment agency to look for a job and looked at other small bookkeeping businesses thinking I'll sell, the client list that I had at that point, which was very small. It might have been about 20,000 or 15,000.
Yes.
And I looked at other small businesses and I thought I could actually do that. I could actually create a bookkeeping practice myself. I can employ people and I can build it. So it was that's when it started going through my mind that, I can actually do this myself.
Oh, so it was kind of confidence as well, was it?
Yeah, definitely. It was a mindset of, as I say, you're in a rut, so you just do the work that you have to do every week. Your compliance, keep your clients happy. But it wasn't until I thought, well, I need to challenge myself, and I just couldn't make a decision, so I just decided to do it.
Okay.
Which is probably the best thing that you can just actually do, is just give it a go.
Yeah.
Just go out there and do it.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and so I found an office and moved into the office, and that's when the mind shift actually did happen, that I actually took it seriously myself. So you've got to go through that process of, what do you want to do? What is your vision for your long term? What are you planning on doing? Just doing the data entering, or are you wanting to build something? So my vision was to give it a go and build a business.
Do you think it's possible to get to the point of having made that decision even when you are working from home?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can make that decision, and it is your mind, it's your mindset. So if you are just thinking small and don't have vision of growing, then, you know, and that's fine for a lot of bookkeepers. They just prefer to work by themselves. But if you have a vision to grow the business, you know, improve your systems, improve your efficiencies, and see what your business actually has potential of. And I mentor a lot of bookkeepers that actually do work from home, but they've set up their home office in a way that it is a business office, whereas, you know, mine I was sharing with the children, so
Yeah.
I had to get
Yes.
out.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely, you can certainly do it from home. It's just your thoughts of, you know, this is a business, this isn't just part-time work.
Mm.
You know, you can create it in a whole different level.
Yeah, and I know for me, because we've spoken about this before, but and lots of people know my story, so I'm not going to go into that in detail, of course, but when I first started, the biggest vision I had was to replace my day income. So I worked as an employee for 3 days a week, and I thought, if I'm good at what I do, it'd be great if I could just replace that income. So that's about as big as that vision got. But it was after I really was completely working for myself, and like 12 or 18 months down the track, that my next big vision was to replace my husband's income. Now, I set the goal for that for 2010. So that was about 10 years after I started my business-ish. It took me 4 years longer than that. It took me to 2014 to achieve that. But it was a big enough vision for me to be able, or to help me push through when the hurdles came. What was the big, I know you wanted to grow your business and be more professional. Was there some underlying emotional vision that you had that really you became passionate about?
Yeah, it was more that I wanted to get to a stage of actually owning a successful business where I wasn't working in it.
Yeah.
So my vision was to build something of an autonomous nature that I could sell. And my why, we talk about, you know, what is your why in business? It took me a very long time to understand what my why was, because mentors will ask you and you say, well, I like to help clients and I like what I do and I want to have flexible hours, but they're not your real why. As you say, if you come across hurdles of what's going to keep you going, because you can get part-time work and flexible hours working for somebody else.
Yes.
So why are you in business? Going through all of the challenges and, you know, the distress and the heartaches and the overwhelmed times, and it was, for me, it was to create an asset to sell or treat as passive income. So I started that process in, I think it was about 2009.
So how long after you started your business was that then? So
yeah, so I started with the children in 95, but I didn't get a business name until 2000.
Yeah.
And then I moved out of the home office in, I think, 2009 or 2008.
Yeah. And what's interesting, I think, is that you were able to see the end game in this journey. It does take quite a lot to actually believe that that's possible, but you were able to see that quite clearly in the end, and that's what you worked towards, and you were relentless with that.
Yeah, that's right, and that's what the mentor helped me find, that vision of why I'm doing it, what is our end game, what is the figure, what is the result, and when do you want it by?
Yes.
And then you work back from there and find out the steps you need to go through to achieve that end game. But as soon as I did turn that switch on and talk about, you know, a serious business, I was in business mode. That was my end game, and that's what I headed towards.
Yes.
And it was very easy once you knew that.
Okay. Yeah.
But, you know, there's so much clutter in your mind and you're so busy that you can't step away from your business to actually analyse, you know, what are you doing this for?
Yes. And that's part of, I guess, when everyone's heard me go on and on and on about working on your business instead of working in it. And it's a real rat race, a real trap if you don't make time to work on your business, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, and that's one of the reasons why I reached out to pure bookkeeping as well,
Right.
because I was trying to work on my business, but I didn't know where to start,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what systems I wanted or needed, and I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So,
Yes.
I reached out to pure bookkeeping. I think it was 2011.
Yes.
Got some, the manuals and the systems in place, which helped me structure it and understand how this was going to happen.
Mm. Yes.
That it can happen if you, put all the systems in place and you get the autonomy,
Mm.
then, it's not rocket science. I used to tell
Yes.
myself, that was one of the things that I used to tell myself quite often, that this is not rocket science, this is doable.
Yeah.
You're good at what you do, you get your clients in, you get the bookkeepers to do the work.
Yeah.
You make sure that the systems are in place and the profitability is measured, and
Yes.
have to check your audit,
Mm.
but it's doable.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I think that it is that um, it's that belief as well. Like that's what you're describing. It's the belief, unwavering belief that it's doable, and to actually, yeah, I think probably we can put, like, it just seems like a huge thing that when we think of a vision where I want to have a red belt or a black belt business and so many staff working for me, and like if you create the big picture like that, which is great, but when you put the manager's hat on, it can be a bit daunting to create to make that vision happen. And I guess that's having the mentor would have been really important to you then to keep you on track.
Yeah, definitely. I credit the success of my business to my mentor,
Right.
and you don't even realise how important that
Mm.
he was to me, to just make it clear
Yeah.
of what I needed to do,
Mm.
and just be 100% supportive. And he knew I could do it. And he
Yes.
said, some of the conversations were just, just do it. You know what? Sometimes you've got to take risks,
Yeah.
and you've got to hire that, accountant, or, hire that second you,
Mm.
just to be able to, have the growth within your business. So
Yeah.
there's certain risks that you do have to take, but as long as you measure those risks,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Calculated risks,
then,
as you say.
yeah, that's right. And then you know what you're in for, you know what you need to do.
Mm.
It just becomes a lot clearer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So I mean, that was, I would say, probably the biggest decision to start off with would have been that decision to actually grow your business. Are there other ones that happened along the way that you would say were really critical decisions that you made?
Yeah, employing a really good person that was a second me. So I already had some bookkeepers,
Yeah.
uh, contractors that were doing the data entry, but I was reviewing everything and getting still bogged down in, a lot of the reviews and the training and the checking everything.
Mm.
So it was really important for me at that time of my business to put on an accountant that actually could do the reviews
Yes.
and the consulting and the training,
Yeah.
and support me in growing the business as well.
Mm.
Uh, and that was, as I say, that was one of the biggest risks as well. But it worked out to be one of the best things that I did do in my business,
Mm.
is just releasing that work from me so that I could work again on the business.
Yes.
And I didn't have, you still have a hat of everything, but
Yeah.
you're not overwhelmed by, the top end work. You've got somebody that can also help you do that review,
Mm.
like the back checklists. And, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
We all know how to do the bookkeeping and a BAS, and we've got our checklists.
Yeah.
And if all of that is set in stone and it's all done, ticked off,
Yeah.
then you can move on with the rest of the growth of your business.
Yes. Yes. and we've said it before, I said it earlier, it's a matter of carving out time and guarding that with your life, isn't it, to work on your business?
Yeah, that's right. And that was another one of the biggest decisions, was actually moving away from doing the bookkeeping, so that I was only doing the review and some consulting and thinking about the growth of the business and putting the new clients on, and staying in touch with all of the new technology. I didn't become the champ in something like Xero.
Oh, yes.
I got the accountant to become the champ, so I didn't need to be the only person.
Yes.
To know you still got to be aware of everything that's going on in the industry, so that you can position yourself in the best way.
Yes, but as you say, when you've got the right person who is your 2IC, and they're the ones that are the champion of the various programs and know all the latest things that are coming along, it definitely does, because that's really in the detail of it. You've got to always be having this helicopter view. Anything that draws you down into the detail of the running of the business on a daily basis is really taking you out of your key role, isn't it? Right.
Yeah, that's right. And you can't do both. You've got to really concentrate on that helicopter view.
Yeah.
And just ensure that your profit margins are there, and you've got your KPIs and all your systems in place, and then continue growing the business.
Yeah, one of the things that I struggled with when I was transitioning I made the decision I was going to grow my business, but for quite some time after I made that decision, I still struggled with being convinced that working on your business was as important or more important than working in it. It took a long time for my mentor, who was my business coach, Peter Cook, to actually drum that into me. And so, for example, I would consciously sometimes, when I was working on my business as the leader or the manager and doing the helicopter thing, I would sometimes feel guilty about it, because I'd be thinking, I really need to be, is this real work? It kind of, you get so used to working in the business and doing a bank reconciliation and all those tiny little details. And that's very rewarding for a bookkeeper that's your job. That's what you're trained in. That's what you're skilled at. That's empowering business owners around their finances. There's a lot of currency in that. And it can be difficult. And I certainly struggled transitioning into valuing the time that I was spending working on my business and putting a greater value, as a matter of fact, than when I worked in my business on client work. And I can remember it taking me months and months and months for me to get that. Did you struggle with that at all?
Yeah, definitely, especially at the start, when you need to delegate work to staff. That I wanted to hold on to it all, that I'd give them, here, you do this, and then I'll still talk to the client.
Yes.
And I'll still be involved. And then further on, when, putting the accountant on to do the reviews, I mean, is that something that you're allowed to do, that you don't actually review every general detail account and every GST detail account? Is it okay to allow another accountant that's been trained in the way that I did it and proven that she was good, that it was okay for her to be doing it, and what am I going to do? And,
yes, that's right.
I'm going to be socialising and those type of things. You think, I'm not doing anything, and it was a bit of a joke, really, that I didn't do anything anyway. So,
and but it is.
I actually felt good about that.
Pardon?
I actually felt good about that at the end.
Yes.
Well, that's exactly what I was planning to do.
Yes.
was not working.
It was only, for me, it was only when, I remember distinctly, actually, when the penny dropped for me. I won't mention the client, but I was at this particular client's premises, and I only had, at this stage, I didn't have very many clients that I was working on. But when I arrived at her office, I actually almost felt sick. I felt ill, and I thought, I can't be here. It suddenly hit me that this was not where I was meant to be. This was not a good use of my time. And it took a lot of, I guess, coaching from Peter for me to get there. And then finally the awareness came through. It's like it just overwhelmed me of where, and with certainty of where it is that I need to be spending my time, and working in as the leader and manager of my business is where I need to be. And it was such a relief, really, in the end, when I got to that place.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also found that clients were thrilled for you. Like I'd say to them that I could no longer do your work, that I'd like it to bring in a bookkeeper in. And they were thrilled for me that my business was growing.
Yes, yeah.
So, you know, I know bookkeepers do find it hard to say, oh, but I've always gone to that client and they wouldn't want anybody else. Well,
oh, yeah.
I thought that too, but once you start to say, well, I'm growing and I'm putting on staff, and, you know, when you start talking about the possibility of somebody else doing it, they didn't have a problem with it.
Yes.
There was only one client that insisted I stay there because I had, you know, made this miracle happen in his business compared to the previous bookkeeper, which sometimes does happen.
Yes.
But he was happy to pay my consulting rate.
Yes, okay. And that's one thing I think when you spoke earlier about making the decision to grow your business, I think everything that every action that you take after that is in line with that decision. So what the problem I had was because I hadn't made that decision to grow my business when I first started. When I say grow, I mean actually have this very large business. I didn't have the conversation with any of my clients that I would be replacing myself as my business grew. So for the first 12 or 18 months, every client that I put on, I was their bookkeeper, and I didn't have any conversation about having anyone else. But when I was full up and needed to replace myself, I then had to backtrack and go back to each client, which took me probably the best part of 12 months to actually go through each client and massage the whole conversation so that they felt okay with and trusted me. But essentially it came down to trust, though. Because they trusted me and I said I was going to do this and everything was going to be okay, they were okay with that. But they were still difficult conversations. Much easier, as you said, to be able, if you make the decision at the start, even if you're not sure, make the decision to grow the business big and have those conversations, take those actions and set up the systems that you need to for that growth. And then if it doesn't happen, if you decide once you're on white belt and you're just working on your own and you're perfectly happy with that, the clients aren't going to come up to you and say, hey, listen, how come you haven't grown your business? When are you going to replace yourself? They don't remember that. So, but it's much easier, wouldn't you say, if you are able to make that decision earlier on, and then every action that you take after that supports that decision.
Yeah, definitely. As soon as you can, if you're in the business to put staff on and grow your business, then as soon as you can, as soon as you get new clients, move them over to the bookkeeper straight away.
Yes. Now,
take away the working in the business. I was just saying, take away the working in your business as soon as you can.
Yes, yes. You mentioned growth, and this is what we'll talk about now. Dean's actually made the question, or passed the question. I have all the systems thanks to PB. My biggest problem is getting out to get new clients, overcoming the reluctance. Any thoughts, advice?
Overcoming the reluctance of him going out there? Or?
Yeah, for him going out and doing the marketing. I mean, it's fairly typical for most bookkeepers to really not like marketing. And it certainly was not something that I loved. It was just something that I knew I needed to do. And I created the system so that I could stop thinking about it and just go and do it. But what did you do for growth?
Well, the biggest thing was moving out of the home office, and then the mind shift that brought. So take it seriously.
What were some of your effective marketing strategies? and something maybe you could give Dean some advice about overcoming his reluctance to do the marketing.
Well, I think, as you say, you've just got to do it. You've just got to get into some networking groups. And if you don't want to market your business, like talk about yourself and what you do, then perhaps talk about stories of how you've helped others.
Oh, yes.
Other businesses, because people can relate to, your story of how you did help others, and they then take that on board and think about how that can relate to me or, somebody within their networking group.
And also, as a licensee, we always say to be promoting the pure bookkeeping system. It's much easier to promote a system than it is to talk about how great you are, which no one likes to do. And to definitely encourage everyone who is struggling with the whole concept of marketing. You do actually just have to do it. I totally agree with you about that, though, Katrina. It's even regardless of how you feel, I think that's a big thing when you're growing your business. Sometimes there would have been times where you just didn't feel like doing certain things. Would that be right?
Yeah, definitely. And you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Because you're the business owner, and it's your business, and it's your asset. It's your baby. You just have to go out of your comfort zone at times. And I hated standing up in front of people and talking about my business, and always avoided the networking groups. But in the end, I did join some networking, and then you just talk to other people, and you find that they are other business owners, not too dissimilar to you, trying to grow their business. So it's just you're just having a conversation.
Yes. And I think that's right. And I think when you've got a big enough vision, those times where you feel reluctant, where you think, I just don't feel like it, I don't feel extroverted, which is what you've got to pull out a tiny bit of an extrovert out of you when you're doing your marketing. I think that's probably fair to say. But it would be your vision that would get you out there. Why am I doing this? That would always come back to that, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you could think about what you're good at. Like, you're obviously getting clients that you're working in your business a lot, so you're wanting to start marketing for growth. So what are you good at? And you can start sharing, boasting about it. I was a bit, bluff it until you know it. So it was sort of, I guess, that confidence of just saying, yes, I can do that, and then you go and find out how to do it.
Yes.
Or just, you are, become members of associations. I was a certified consultant of MyOb, so you just push yourself out into those groups, and you just boast that you're good at MyOb. You've been doing it for so many years, and you specialise in these areas, and you've got bookkeeping, businesses in this area.
And I think there's a saying called "fake it till you make it." I think that's probably quite apt. And Peter Cook, a saying that he's had is that you tell the truth in advance is another way of looking at it, where you may not, so there may be licensees who might be new to, for example, the pure bookkeeping system, but don't feel that they can promote that as something that they're following because they're just new to the system. And feel like they're not speaking with integrity. But if you think about it, there were a lot of times where I told the truth in advance, as you said, Katrina, when you'd say, yes, I can do that, and then I'd be thinking, I don't know how to do that. Let me go away and make sure that happens. If you work doubly hard to make it happen when you have said that this is what I'm doing and this is what I can do. So for new licensees, if they're still learning the pure bookkeeping system, when you say, I'm a licensee and I use the pure bookkeeping system and I can guarantee the quality of the work, when you say that, to be in integrity with what you're saying, you'll make sure that that happens. So you'll run back to the office and learn whatever you need to know about the pure bookkeeping system so that you do know it, so that you are with integrity with what you're saying.
Yeah, and in reality, a growth of a business is about learning new things.
Yeah.
So not out of our realm to say I know payroll or I know inventory, that you can go and learn whatever you needed to learn in that area.
Yes.
Might be a software that you think, well, I know, I'd like to get into it, and that you just say, yes, I can do it.
Yes.
Or you might say that I'll be learning it with you, or,
Yes.
You'll be growing the education with you. So, yeah, sometimes you might need to explain that, I won't charge you 20 hours to work out how to set up a Xero, or I know how to do it. And
that's right. Yes.
do it.
And we want this this little chat that we're having to be warts and all. So, what were some of the biggest mistakes that you've made over this time?
I think not planning sooner. So I wasn't a big planner at the start, but I think the mentor got me into. That's when the structured planning happens.
Okay.
And not delegating the work as quickly as I could. So work would come in, and I would have staff, but I wouldn't give it to them until, I don't know what I was waiting for. I think I was waiting on doing it myself because it was messy and whatever. But I'd often not have clear instructions at the start. I didn't have all of my templates and checklists and onboarding information. So I would get the information, give it to a bookkeeper without telling them what they really needed to do.
Yeah.
And I would lose a lot of efficiencies because they would go off on their own tangent, they'd do what they think they should be doing, they'd be spending so many hours in one spot where, so if you're really clear in your instructions, you avoid any of those inefficiencies.
Yes. So when we talk about mistakes, so in regards to delegating, and I guess it all came down to the systems for you then to overcome something like that particular thing.
Yeah, that's right. You start getting templates in order and job lists, so you scope a client better, and then you write down exactly what needs to be done. So you really scope it better.
And you use Xero Practice Manager. Well, it was Workflow Max then, probably. And you use that, though, in your business to help with all of that, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. So you can set up templates of how you onboard a client, and then, the work that needs to be done. But it also just have a manual checklist of the once-off stuff that needed to be done, like just a general, this stuff needs to be brought up to this date, these bank recs are totally wrong, just stuff the client has advised you. They've given you, information, so you've just got as much information as you can from a client. You write it down in a job sheet, and while you're doing the bookkeeping job, which needs all these checklists, just be aware of this other sheet that says, we need, the BASs haven't been lodged for 5 years. It's just like an overview of what things we need to target first.
Yes, and I think there's great opportunities for bookkeepers now with all the online add-ons and apps and things like that to have, whether it's Xero Practice Manager or some other management software. It's so much easier being able to have that online where all your staff can access the information at the one time, and it's all updated real time.
Yeah, definitely. That was another one of my saviours. I think I bought Workflow Max in 2011 or 2012 because I was so frustrated with not knowing where the work was. And if I had 3 or 4 staff and they'd come in part-time, and I didn't know what they were up to, what had been done, what it was even in the office, at what stage their BASs were. So all Excel spreadsheets, all in your head. So it was a matter of putting it into something like Workflow Max, which then Xero purchased, and I thought, yay.
Yes.
Because then if Xero's going to get hold of it, I thought there'd be money thrown into it.
Yes.
And then just takes it all out of your head, obviously, but also that staff could access it from a client, from home.
Yeah.
It was just all remote, and that was one of their first programs that they opened in the morning, was their Outlook and their Workflow Max to see what they had to do.
And I think that was the, we've spoken about this before, I guess the difference between how your business was run and how I ran my business. So it's not to say that it's not a one size fits all. This is the model. You know, you can follow these steps and you'll have success. There are some basic principles of setting yourself on towards the path of success. But when I didn't have Xero Practice Manager, but I employed a 2IC who was essentially the person that pulled it all together. And you definitely, in your model, I think you could probably get by without that person. You've got your 2IC there who is the accountant checking all the work, but actually pulling this all together, having a software program that you know the state of everything, I think is really important, but also so much more available. Like for $25 a month is the Xero Practice Manager, isn't it? The basic version.
Yeah, it's actually called Workflow Max.
Oh, okay.
The $25 a month one, and it doesn't provide tax.
Yeah, yeah.
But now Xero has got Xero Tax, which is free for bronze, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation.
I guess,
yeah, so that's
which I won't go into now, but I just wanted to make the point that to take advantage of the technology, and also I think don't reinvent the wheel around this. One of the issues I think that can happen with so many new things coming on board with the technology is that we chase the next bright sparkly thing, and because everything keeps improving, someone then goes online and says, oh, I've just tried this other new thing, and so you drop the program that you've been building for the past 3 or 4 months or something because this other one seems to be the new bright shiny thing that might do more, and you can spend another 3 or 4 months working on that one. I think it's more important to find one that works and just grow your business.
That's right. And yeah, and the practice manager is well, now that Xero's got it, you can lodge BASs from it. It's got everything that you need from it. Like, well, it's got 80% of what you need. It doesn't have a CRM, but if you get a system that ticks off a lot of what bookkeepers need, and I believe it does because I ran my business from it, then that's as good as you're going to get.
Yeah. And you don't have to keep chasing after the next bright shiny thing that you think is going to be the one thing that's going to solve all your problems. You just want something that, because nothing will solve all your problems anyway. Have something that works for you and is able to deliver results so that you can get stuff out of your head, so you can sleep at night, not wake up in the middle of the night panicking because you've forgotten something.
Yeah, that's right. Whatever system works for you, and you've got one that's already in the cloud, or as long as it's it can scale with you.
Yes. Now we've
as far away from manual work as you can.
Oh,
it needs to be
absolutely. Yeah, and using that same my story, because I didn't have the cloud stuff, practice manager or whatever. A lot of my businesses run off Excel spreadsheets to manage all of that, which everyone knows about here because we've got the KPI report and the bash schedule. Those sorts of things we use to manage the business. But I needed a person to run those Excel spreadsheets in order for me to get the information that I needed. Much better with the technology now. What I'd like to spend a little bit of time now, because your success story is that you came from Xero, worked through, had an office, number of staff, worked through all your issues and things like that, mistakes made, but then you sold your business about 12 months ago. So if we could spend a little bit of time now talking about your decision to sell and about the process, just something that will give people listening at the moment some idea about what to expect in that process.
So because I had seen the mentor 5 years ago and I knew my end game, so it was either going to be in 5 years' time we'll review it, and it's either ready for sale or it's going to be passive income. So I'm going to be working less. So the whole idea was to be autonomous, that I'm not working so much in it. Then I can make choices. So, you know, I guess the big thing is, like we can tell our kids, set yourself up as the highest as you can be so you can make your choices.
Yeah.
So just before the 5 years was up and I'd achieved the levels that I had wanted, that I'd set out 5 years earlier, I thought, well, what am I going to do? I don't want to keep it the same, and I don't want to lose business, because then you're losing your asset that you sell. So do I have enough energy for another growth spurt? Am I still passionate about, you know, where's the next step? What other services do I need to bring in to go to the next level?
Yeah. So you were when we talk about levels, you were at red belt at that stage?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if anyone doesn't know what that is, you can send me an email, and I think most people would know what that is, but I'll send you the business blueprint where we talk about the different belts. So go on. Yeah.
And then I was about to see another mentor to give me some inspiration, and while we were toing and froing with our appointment, I decided that it's time to go. I can't decide where I want this business to go, so it's time to move on and do something else. And that's pretty much where I came to it. I thought, I just don't have the energy to grow it again. Time to see what else is out there. What you know, and I had an idea that I could help other bookkeepers build their business, or just go out and do consulting. So that's where I was leading to, and I found a broker. I went straight to a broker. I wasn't going to try and sell it myself. I interviewed a few brokers and chose one, and by the time he had given me the profile to write up, he had already had a buyer ready. And we went through the process, and we decided that wasn't the right buyer.
Right.
So we let that one go, and that was actually an offer of $1.20.
$1.20 turnover.
Yeah, $1.20 turnover. So it was an amazing offer, but it wasn't the right fit for the business or the staff or the clients. They kept talking about investors, and anyway, I won't go into the detail, but it just didn't sound like a nice fit. So we let that go, and then, you know, we had other people lined up. So I found another one that was husband and wife. The wife is an accountant, and the husband wanted to buy a bookkeeping business. So perfect fit.
Yes.
You know, the accountants are wanting bookkeeping businesses because they can leverage off them. You know, it was a perfect business that had, you know, a lot of clients and a decent amount of money that, you know, I wasn't the only person in the business, so you're not selling me. I was actually attracted so far away from the business that anybody could have walked into it and ran it.
Yes.
And that's, you know, that's what I was trying to achieve over the past, you know, 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
So
and it is a process, isn't it, that you do need, there's some steps that you need to take when you are preparing yourself or your business, not yourself, your business for sale, because there may be administrative stuff that you want to tidy up or tighten up and things like that to make sure that there's less and less of you. It's not just a 5-minute decision or a 5-minute thing to jump up and sell your business once you've made the decision.
No, you've got to think about it. You've got to go through the process, and it's an emotional thing as well.
Yes. So in your business, you ended up selling that for how much in terms of dollar of turnover?
It's around $1 turnover.
That's a really good result. And you know what? This is really exciting, and which is why I wanted to have Katrina share her story with everyone. The fact is that I know for a fact that accounting firms are noticing bookkeeping businesses now. If you had have even said probably 5 years ago, they were not interested. there would, if you don't have systems in place, the business relies entirely on you. Even the industry 5 years ago was not as professional as what it is now, and accountants wouldn't have touched a business with a bookkeeping business with a barge pole. So the times are changing now, and I really wanted everyone listening to get that their business is valuable, and the more systems you put in place and the less it's dependent on you, the higher the value. And you can get $1 of turnover, provided you've got all those things. It needs to be profitable, needs to have systems in place, and as little involvement from you. But they're looking for it now. It's great to see, isn't it, Katrina?
Yeah, it is. I had a lot of accountants quite interested. They still want to offer a lower level, a lower price.
Right. Yes.
But they will come around when, you know, there's tight competition out there.
Yes.
And there's a lot of them wanting to do it.
Yeah.
To get into that space, and they're profitable businesses, and you know, as you say, if your systems are all there, and you are not the right, you know, the main person of the business.
Yes.
Usually, if they're remote clients and you know, spread over like dollar value spread over clients, you don't just have one main client. So there's a few things that you need to look out for when you are wanting to sell, but yeah,
that's a good point. So you're saying, and which is certainly my experience as well, is to diversify. So have a spread of clients. If it's a big risk for someone buying a business, if you've got 50% or more in one client, it just takes one person to say no, and they've suddenly lost 50% of their income. That's a risky business. Would there be any other main things that you would say that, because this is important in terms of how people structure their model and their business, how their business looks, is to make sure that's certainly one thing. Can you think of anything else that would impact on the value?
Definitely if they're remote, so if they're live, like either MyOpLive or Xero, they're preferred, so that people can, like, you know, I did have people from interstate looking at the business, and a lot of it was remote, then they could operate it from another state. It's quite bizarre. You think, not quite sure if that's what I want either.
Yes.
Yeah, and a variety of services as well, maybe not just bookkeeping, so that they can lead into their business advisory and consulting and training. If you've got staff ready to go with all of that, training and consulting, then, you know, that's ideal. Not too many, you usually don't have too many overheads, but maybe not too many staff, and, you know, that they've got employment contracts, you know, and they've been there a while, and they're willing to stay and all that type of stuff. But having said that, you can actually just sell your client list.
Yes.
But you don't need to actually sell your business and your staff and your website and everything. You can just, like smaller businesses, 50,000, 80,000, people are just willing to buy a client list.
Yeah. And the other thing I think is important as well is obviously your charge-out rate. If you're charging $45 an hour, or, you know, below the quartile, the top quartile, you know, 60, you should be $65 plus. It's heading north of that. And if you're charging much less, $20 or $30 less than that, then that's not a very valuable business, because the person buying in is not only, it's generally a smaller business anyway, so and they'll buy your client list, but also they will want to put up the prices by $20 an hour, and there's a good chance that a lot of people will leave.
Yeah, that's right. I was advised to put my price up before we sold, but I just didn't get around to it. But yeah, I was at 65, but you know, the industry can take 70.
Yes.
And it just adds to the possibility of getting more than $1.
Yes, yes. Look, we don't have much time left, and I do. We've had a couple of questions, but I think Jim, I think we've answered your question. What I'd like to do, Katrina, is to give you an opportunity to talk about what you're doing since then. What the life after your bookkeeping business, and what is there? That's another great story to see that. Yeah, you're not sitting on a beach and with your feet up, although sometimes you do. But there is other possibilities. So firstly, I'd like to thank you so much for sharing your inspirational story with us. And now let's go on to hearing about some of the things that you're doing since then.
Yeah, well, there's so much opportunity out there when you're in an afterlife of a bookkeeper. There's, you can do the consulting and coaching and best supervisor, and, if you want to stay within the industry. And when I left, I thought I did want to stay within the industry. I wasn't going to leave it, and I thought, where am I going to earn money? I still need to earn money and work.
Yeah.
So I went into the idea of mentoring bookkeepers and assisting them grow their business. And last year I had the opportunity to present the Zero Practice Manager at here, this forum, and that was well taken to. So I created some Practice Manager workshops and webinars, how to set up Zero Practice Manager the right way from the start, from a bookkeeper's perspective, because there's nobody out there doing that. So there's some of the things that I will be teaching in the webinars in creating the whole Practice Manager. Looking at, I can also look at the pure bookkeeping method. So the client manual is within the client profile, and the jobs are set up with the session checklists. How you can set them up, and then I go through how we recur jobs, and we can start to report on jobs and things like that. So if you want to go to the next slide.
By the way, I've just posted a link to your webinars if people are interested, and that's in the chat box there, so you can register for that as well.
Yeah, so there is a workshop coming up on the 9th of March that's in Melbourne, in Hyatt. And normally it's priced at $197, but for PB licensees, doing it for $97. And the webinar is on the next page, which is Tuesday the 15th and Wednesday the 16th. So it's usually a 3-hour workshop. I've broken it up over 2 sessions for 1.5 hours each. You do get a recording and a 27-page instruction workbook.
And I've posted the link also to the workshops that licensees can access as well.
Thank you. And I think the next slide talks a bit more about the mentoring. So, an afterlife of a bookkeeper, we have so much information that we can share with other bookkeepers. So I have created a Bookkeepers HQ Facebook page, Facebook group, where we can share stories, and it's the Facebook group is more about how to grow a business rather than how to do payroll.
Oh, yes.
And I'm also doing one-off strategy sessions, so a half a day that we look at your business, we set your goals, we set some action steps, and we get clarity on your why you're in business, and talk about your ideal business and look at the ways that you can get there. And then the mentoring is, as I said, it's fortnightly Skype calls, 6-month or 12-month contracts. We catch up every fortnight, and we do a lot from the strategy sessions in setting our goals and our why, and then we just keep accountable over the next 6-12 months to make sure that your business can grow to its full potential.
Yeah. And certainly I can say that I've referred a number of licensees to Katrina, and had some very positive feedback. So I'm more than happy to recommend the services that you offer, Katrina, and in terms of the mentoring and the workshops and the webinars, it's been received really well by licensees. So,
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
sorry?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. That's
Yeah.
fantastic, and I really love doing them because, you know, it just comes from my passion of what
Yes.
I have done, and I can pass over to other bookkeepers and enjoy their growth.
Yeah, and I think it's a very rewarding place to be, where you've been successful. You've grown your business to where you wanted it to be. It all went to plan. Yes, there were obstacles along the way that you had to work at, but you've reached that, and now you're sharing all of that with everyone else. So I think that's absolutely fabulous and a great resource for everyone to plug into when they need to. So you've got Katrina's phone number, her email address there. I've posted on the chat box where you can register for the webinars and the workshops, and there's some more details there for the Bookkeepers HQ and XPM support group. The next webinar will be obviously next month on the 4th Monday in March, which is the 28th of March. If there is a topic that you'd love me to cover for one of our webinars, please send me an email or post on the community. Before you go, I'd really love you to, let me just bring this up, jump back online to our community page, share your win, click on that link to share your win, and also some feedback about tonight's webinar. There are actually 3 or 4 licensees that I would love to interview over the next 3 to 6 months. They have inspirational stories like Katrina's, and I'd love to share that with you, so I plan on doing that. But if there's something else, some other topic that you'd like me to run, these webinars are for your benefit, so just let me know. Post it on the community. Dean's posted a question here, Katrina. Any thoughts, advice on finding and selecting a business mentor? Well, Dean, I would suggest you actually speak to Katrina first up and see if there's some synergy there and something that she may be able to help you with. So post your wins, feedback. Right. Pardon?
Oh, sorry, I just said that'd be great. When I went to find a mentor, there was nobody out there that actually knew bookkeeping businesses, so it's you just go with somebody that, you know, coaches a business. But yeah, just find the opportunities just there.
Well, and I have said before as well, Katrina, you mentioned it about your mentor, that you wouldn't have achieved what you had achieved without his support. And I would say, and I've written it in my book and said it over and over and over, that I wouldn't have done it without Pete as well. The great news about licensees being on board is that you do have the support of the community, you do have the support of the mastermind meetings, but if you do want one-on-one mentoring, and if your business is at that stage, I usually recommend that anyone starting makes the most of the support that is offered within the Pure Bookkeeping community. And then when you get to the next level, then definitely mentoring, I think, is probably a worthwhile investment, and would, as I said, would be more than happy to recommend Katrina. Looking forward to seeing many more posts online. Thank you all very much for attending. And there's, again, Katrina's email and phone number. I realise it's the last week of BAS, and you've done really well to attend tonight, so good on you for that, of prioritising your business. And we'll see you all next month. Thanks, Katrina.
Thank you.